But now we want to learn how to navigate through the score. So you see I'm on a laptop, so I use my two fingers to move up or down or sideways. But if you have a mouse, you can also use the mouse wheel or these bars at the side. Now, we can also zoom with the two fingers. So if I go into a bar and I spread my fingers apart, then I can zoom into a part to see in the split screen and the crosshair where we are and to compare both sides with each other. So if you don't have a mouse or a touchpad, you can also use the zoom buttons. I will just briefly talk about the toolbars. You can find them up here. There are the zoom buttons. Also, we have here in the toolbars not only the 6 foldable toolbars that you have seen in the video before, we have also 2 modes we can select from. We have the select mode and we have the drag mode. And with the drag mode, if I click here, see my mouse is a hand. And if I hold my mouse, I can move through the document. And to switch into the selection again, I can simply press D. So I can select elements. So we now know how to navigate. So let's see how we can select things. It's easy to select something. One click is enough. So I can select a note and I can listen to the note. I will zoom in a bit more. And you can also select multiple elements. So if I hold Control, or if you're on a Mac command, you can select different elements. And then you could edit them further. You could place a dynamic on top of them all at once, not to have every single element place a dynamic element on. But you can also hold your mouse and draw a selection rectangle to select multiple notes. If you double click into a bar, then the whole bar is selected. And if I hold Control and double click, then all the bars from all the systems are selected from all the staves. And I can also have a selection of bars. So if I double click into a bar and hold Shift to click somewhere, then this selection will be selected. The same is also with Shift and Control. So I can select this whole section. Now, you could also select the staves. So if I click left beneath the clef, the whole staff is selected. And if I double click, then all the staves of the first violin are selected. Now we could listen to the violin only by pressing the space bar. This is good for auditory learning types. If you have students in lessons and you want to show them an instrumentation of a piece and to show them what instruments play. So let's listen to the violin. Yeah, this sounds good. So we can now also drag the notes to edit them. So if I select a note, I can have my mouse move it sideways, or I could move it also up or down to change the pitch. Also, you could use your arrows on your keyboard to move them. And if you hold Shift and press the arrows, you can move by an octave. This was requested by a lot of people. So this is the easy way to shift by an octave. So you could also use the left and right arrow keys to listen through the melody quickly. So you know which notes are correct or not if you already know the piece. Good. Nice. So now we know how to select things, but there's also other things to select. For example, texts. Texts are also really important, especially when we come to lyrics later. You can just move a text by clicking on it, and you can also double click to change the text. There's one important thing that I want to show you that are the properties. With the properties, you can also change the size of texts. You can find them here in the window menu, or alternatively with Alt and P. And as you can see now, there are a lot of different things that you can do here. So you have the text type that is really important. I'll come to that in a minute. And you have the font that you can change, or you can make it a bit bigger. We can have it bold, and you can change many things more. But when you export something, it is really important that you pay attention to the text type, because the text type is also responsible for the anchoring of text elements. And so if you export something into another music notation software and it might be another text type, then it appears somewhere else than you intended to be. So here, this is perfect. It's a title. If I click here, I see this is a common text type, but I want this to be the subtitle. So this is saved also when exporting. If we take a look here on the right side, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, this is currently set as the subtitle, but I want this to be the composer, because the composer is always on the right side. So you could change these things also. I will delete this for now. And yeah, we can take a look at this. It looks pretty good. I want to quickly show you how you can transpose this now. So we have the organize menu. We can change instruments. You could change the sounds of the instruments, or you could change the instruments themselves. If you have transposing instruments, you can change the tempo and the key and the time signature. The time signature will also be important to change or correct things later on. But I think transposing is more changing key, right? So we click on change key. And now we can see G major, major, and minor keys. We can switch from them. We have also a bar range. And I want to have this from the first to the last bar. And important is that you check here note transposing. Now you could also choose if you want the notes to be transposed up or down, or if it's automatically. Also, chord symbol transposing is checked. We don't need this here, but it's good to have it checked. And I want to change all staves. But let's choose just the major. Move it to the side. Now pay attention to the notes and to the keys. The keys moved, and the notes also. Interesting, right? Now we have just transposed this whole score by some simple clicks. Now, I want to export this as a PDF file. So where we can export things is the file menu. Here we can also import other pages or save the project. It's always good to save something. We have also autosave function, so it will save every now and then. And we can export here as PDF or print. So I will click here, save export as PDF, and I will call this eine kleine Nachtmusik, meaning a little night music, and save it. Now I open the folder where I've exported it to, and we see the file here. I open it, and there it is. Nice. This is something that I could send to my colleagues, to my bandmates, or to print for rehearsing. But if you want to rehearse, you might not want to listen to all of the things at once. So I will talk now about the audio export. So the audio export is also adjustable. You can use also the playback feature, also here in the window menu. So I click on the playback. And now I can select the tempo. I could slow the piece down for practicing. I could also have a metronome playing. This is something useful to keep time. We can also select how loud instruments are. So let's say I'm a viola player and I want to hear my part louder than the others. So I go to the window menu and open the mixer. And here in the mixer, we have the name of the instruments and the volume. Let's lower the volume of the others. I could also mute them or solo myself, so I only can hear myself playing. And I can here select the MIDI channel. So if you're working with other MIDI hardware, you can also set this here. Here we have also the sound of this instrument. ScanScore normally chooses the sound font itself, but you could also change it here. We have here the stereo panorama that you can change. So if you want to place them somewhere else. And here we have another option of transpose. This means that you can just have the sound transposed, not the notes. So if you have transposing instruments or you have to change a clef, because if you change a clef in scan mode, this will not change automatically also the notes, because ScanScore thinks that the notes are recognized correctly. So you could also here change these elements. But if you're happy with the result that you have, then we can go to the file menu and export it here as MP3. So I say again, eine kleine Nachtmusik. Save it. And now I open the folder again where I exported it. Nice. Now this I could send to my bandmates again and also have practicing MP3s for the certain instruments. What you can also do if you work with other software like digital audio workstations is that you can have these files exported as MIDI. You can do also in the file menu. And then you could, let's say, just have this into Logic or in Ableton or somewhere else, and then have a new instrumentation, have other sounds played. I will show you this in this video. Simply drag and drop the MIDI file into the software. You see that also the instrumentation was imported. Now you could change the sampler instruments to any instrument that you want. You could change the style of the piece. If you have any further questions, yeah, you see you can do a lot with this. So you can edit it further however you want to have maybe your students more like classical music if you have it in a modern arrangement. So I see your questions, by the way. I have to show these things. So we will collect the questions, and some of these things we will also cover later. I see some things like chord symbols And I will come to this in a bit. Just be a bit patient, okay? We first will show you also how to export these things as MusicXML. So, but speaking of audio and tweaking, one thing that is important for audio and MusicXML is taking a look in the preferences. So we will do this. Here in the options menu, we have the preferences. And here we have also the QR code that we can scan with our mobile app. And I want to see here these three tabs. There are currently three. We are working on more settings, but we will take a look at the audio and MIDI settings first, real quick. So you can change the master volume of ScanScore. If it's too quiet for you, you can turn the volume a bit up. And you can also use sound fonts. So just check this, and then you can select the sound font. And ScanScore comes also with a sound font, or you could change your different MIDI settings. We have another preferences tab called the text tab that is similar to the properties that I showed you. And I will talk about these also later because this is really handy. We can change the fonts of a whole text type all at once. So you don't have to go into it and say, I want this element to be this font or this size. You could change everything right here in a single click. But we will first take a look at the MusicXML export. Here in the Common tab, we not only have the default settings, what we are asked to scan, which elements, but we can also here set our default notation editor. So if I open this drop-down menu, you see some of the main notation softwares, but I could also use this here. So I could here select the file path, and then select MuseScore for this example. And what I can do now is simply click here on this button, for example, export to music notation software. And then with this click, MuseScore opens, and it will open my piece. And I could play it back here. And then edit it the way I want. The same will be possible also for Sibelius or for any other MusicXML application. I will do another method and go to the file menu and export it as MusicXML. Now it says the following measures have an incorrect number of notes. You might have seen this before. So you always have to fix these things, because if you don't, then the score might not appear as you want it to be. So I will go into correcting later. This is just a small thing to correct. But now I can export this as MusicXML. Eine kleine Nachtmusik. Okay. Optimize MusicXML for Sibelius. Yeah, sounds good. Now in Sibelius, I can go to File and say Open. And I select Eine kleine Nachtmusik. This is the best setting to open this. Nice.